I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. State Department spokesperson Ned Price was asked about the U.S. policy towards Taiwan during a press briefing Tuesday. The issue has been in the news as President Biden seemed to indicate that the U.S. would consider direct military involvement if China invaded the island. The comment came in response to a question about Ukraine, as the president said the U.S. would go farther in defense of Taiwan than it currently has in defense of Ukraine. His administration has tried to walk back the remark, as Price and other officials said the U.S. One China policy has not changed. Listen to the State Department's take.
Taiwan.
Is the U.S. policy still ambiguous? Is it clear? The president, of course, said there was no change today, but there was, in light of his remarks over the weekend. Can you say what the U.S. policy is? Will the U.S. militarily defend Taiwan in case of an invasion?
As you heard from the president today, as you heard from the president the other day in Tokyo, when President Biden said, and I quote, "Our policy towards Taiwan has not changed at all. We remain committed to supporting the peace and stability across the Taiwan Straits and ensuring there is no unilateral change to the status quo." That is where we were then. That is where we are today, as you heard the president say again today. What the president said is that our policy has not changed. He reiterated that our One China policy and our commitment to peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait, of course, remains. He also reiterated our commitment under the Taiwan Relations Act to provide Taiwan with the military means to defend itself. In short, there has been no change.
But the fact that he's saying that the U.S. would defend Taiwan, do you think that the Taiwanese should feel more reassured than they were before about the possibility of a U.S. military defense?
The Taiwanese should feel reassured that we will continue to comply with and to fully satisfy our commitments under the Taiwan Relations Act, that we will do so consistent with our One China policy and the other documents, including the 3 joint communiques and the 6 assurances.
Let me follow up on one point there. You tweeted just a couple days prior to this that Beijing is misrepresenting the U.S. position on One China, on the One China principle. The president himself said that we agree with on One China. Could you state what that means? Is there any inconsistency there? Does the United States agree with the Chinese interpretation of it?
Well, the Chinese, the PRC, has frequently attempted to misrepresent our policy in their briefings and statements from senior PRC officials. Let me just give you one example of that. The English version of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs readout of the call between our National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, and Wang Zhichi on May 18th incorrectly stated that, quote, "The U.S. pursues the One China principle." Beijing's, and this is important, One China principle is not the same as our One China policy. In a May 12th press briefing, the PRC spokesperson stated that we had made a quote-unquote commitment to uphold the One China principle. That is also not correct. We are committed to upholding our One China policy, which again is guided by the Taiwan Relations Act, the 3 U.S. joint China communiques, and the 6 assurances. The PRC statements attempt to mischaracterize our position and our policy. Our long-standing bipartisan One China policy has not changed. These are policy issues of enormous sensitivity, and we are, I think, appropriately careful and precise with our language. And we urge the PRC to cease its mischaracterization of U.S. policy and statements from senior U.S. officials. Yes.
Well, the problem with that is, though, that you're quibbling with the word principle instead of policy.
It is. It has a different meaning. We stand by our One China policy.
So, what's your understanding of the difference between One China principle and One China policy?
We have a One China policy. That, as we said.
What's the difference between that and One China principle?
We have heard from the PRC that there are so-called commitments under what they call the One China principle that are distinct from our One China policy. And again, we are having this conversation now because for us is important to underscore that we comply with, we abide by our One China policy. It is a policy that, as we have said, is guided by the Taiwan Relations Act, the 3 U.S.-China joint communiques, and the 6 assurances.
Well, maybe you could just like change the name of policy to principle without changing what's in it, and then you could all be happy.
I'll take that suggestion on board.
From
Yes,
Taiwan.
sure.
And, so, I mean, I understand that you guys, in the aftermath, President's aide and he himself said the policy hasn't changed, but he also did say yes to a question which was asked whether the United States would be willing to get involved militarily. I'm sure you guys have internal talks about this, and since he did say yes, does that mean Washington would be willing to commit troops to battle in defense of Taiwan?
The president was not announcing any change in our policy. The president actually,
But the question was
and-
like very clear, and he did say yes.
Well,
And
but-
this is not the first time that.
but you were also omitting what he said when he started the question. I don't want to embarrass you. I know you walked in a couple minutes late, but I did start by
There
saying.
was no 2-minute warning.
I did start by saying that the president, when he was asked, very clearly stated, and I quote, "Our policy towards Taiwan has not changed at all. We remain committed to supporting the peace and stability across the Taiwan Straits and ensuring that there is no unilateral change to the status quo." He went on to say, "We've made a commitment. We support the one China policy. We support all that we've done in the past to ensure that Taiwan has what it needs to defend itself.
Okay.
That is consistent with the Taiwan Relations Act."
I'm gonna join the group of people who can't see how those two things are compatible together. But just on this China-Russia exercise, I'm just wondering if this is the kind of action for United States that requires a response from you and allies, perhaps beyond rhetoric. And if that's the case, what kind of response would that be?
So to your question, Humaira, the PRC and Russia did conduct a joint military patrol involving their strategic bombers on May 24th. The patrol, as we understand it, traversed the Sea of Japan and continued through the East China Sea and the Philippine Sea. This exercise was likely planned well in advance by both countries, and Beijing's decision to cooperate with Moscow in this way, amid Russia's further invasion of Ukraine and the Kremlin's dangerous nuclear rhetoric, demonstrates the quote-unquote no-limits partnerships that they talked about in their joint communique is quite alive and well. And the president's, on the other hand, the president's successful visit to the ROK and Japan, where he met with our treaty allies on a bilateral basis, where he also convened the Quad for the 4th time during this administration, coupled with the launch of discussions on IPEF, the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, that demonstrates a stark contrast to what we've seen from Russia and China. It demonstrates our commitment to a free and open Indo-Pacific region. That was at the heart of the president's visit to Japan, to the Republic of Korea. And you also heard from the president and senior officials while there more about our long-standing commitment to the defense of those allies, including Japan and the ROK. We've consistently made the point that attempts to intimidate U.S. allies and partners will only strengthen our collective resolve. Of course, we've discussed and worked very closely with Japan, with the ROK on matters of defense and deterrence. Barbara.